The quality of your presence has everything to do with the quality of your life. Depression often arises when we are stuck in the past, and anxiety often happens when we are stuck in the future. Freedom and joy can only be found in the present moment. Join me as we explore the power of presence. Welcome to episode number 32 of the Be Ultimate podcast, The Power of Presence. Thank you for tuning in once again. This is your host, Travis Elliott, and I'm excited for this week's podcast because we're going to be talking about presence. There was a story of a man that was walking down a road, and after several minutes he came up to this cross section, and at the cross section he saw an old beggar sitting on top of an old wooden box. And the beggar asked this traveler if he had any change to spare, if he had any money. The traveler declined to offer the beggar any money, but he did have a question for the beggar. And his question was, "What's inside your box, man?" And the beggar said, "There's nothing inside the box." And the traveler said, "Well, how do you know? Have you looked?" And the beggar said, "I haven't looked, but there's definitely nothing inside the box." And the traveler said, "Well, if I was you, I would take a look. It doesn't hurt to see what's inside." So reluctantly, the beggar opened up this rusty old lock and broke inside the box. And to his astonishment, there was an entire box full of gold. So the metaphor is we're all sitting on this box of gold, that what we seek is closer than we think. We seek happiness, and we seek love, and we seek answers and knowledge and all these things outside of us, when the ancient traditions, they teach us and they show that all of this stuff is already inside of us. But we'll never discover this if we're constantly stuck in the past or the future, and we're never accessing the power of the present moment. St. Paul says, everything is shown up by being exposed to the light. And whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. And we know that by the age of 35, 95% of who we are is unconscious. Think about that. 95% of who we are is in the dark. And it's through this avenue of presence that we begin to bring the light, that we begin to illuminate this darkness and this unconscious. And whatever we bring light to through the present moment itself begins to transform into light. The Dalai Lama a few years ago was on this book tour. He had written this book, and it became a New York Times best-selling item. And this interviewer was saying, you must be thrilled. Here you are, you have this book, and the book has all this knowledge and wisdom and uplifting content, and now you're number one on the New York Times best-selling list. What has been the greatest moment of your whole entire life? You've done so many remarkable, astonishing things. And the Dalai Lama took a moment, and he was thinking and reflecting upon his history. And then he had a little smile that appeared on his face, and he looked at the interviewer and he said, I think now. He felt like, from his perspective, even though he's done all these astonishing things and been with some of the greatest figures in modern day history, to him, the present moment was the greatest moment of his life. being with this interviewer, not thinking about other things, but just being present. So a lot of times depression, when we get depressed, when we fall into these patterns and these cycles of depression, it can often happen because we're stuck in the past. Something in my past happened to me, and my mind is just churning that over and over again. And for many people, this can go back decades, and we haven't had the ability, or we haven't accessed the tools to really let go these past events. And on some level, part of being a human being is we all move through things that suck. We move through things that are challenging and difficult and sometimes very traumatic. And hopefully through the practices of yoga and mindfulness and meditation, for some of us going to therapy, we're able to heal that so that we're not stuck in the past and that we can be in the present moment. And then on the flip side, when we're often stuck in the future, when we're often consumed by what's going to happen down the road, this is where anxiety begins to arise. We're worried about all these things. We're worried about so many things in our life, and this creates an endless flow of anxiety. So the importance of being present is that we're not stuck in the past, we're not stuck in the future. It doesn't mean that we can't plan for the future, but when we plan for the future, that happens in the present moment. And when we're planning and we're strategizing and we're setting goals and intentions, we're doing that with awareness. But ultimately, the things that we all yearn for, joy, freedom, spaciousness, peace of mind, equanimity, these qualities, these powerful qualities can only ever happen in the present moment. So we have to become aware of where is our mind going? Where is our mind going throughout our day, throughout our lives? And that's the first step, is just becoming aware, because a lot of us don't even know that we're stuck in the past or stuck in the future. So it's a little bit like that sign in Las Vegas that says you must be present to win. If you want to win the money, you want to win the gold, you got to be present. So if you want to win at the game of life, you too also need to be present. I remember there was one time I went on a hike with my son Bodhi. He was 7 years old at the time, and we'd been hiking for about 20 or 30 minutes. And as we were going down the trail, he was talking about all these things that he was excited about, that he was going to do later in the week. He was going to see this friend. He was going to go to this place. And meanwhile, we're like in this really beautiful place in nature with, vistas of the mountains, ocean breeze that was flowing through the mountains, good quality time between dad and son. And I said, Bodhi, I'm glad you're excited about all these things, but there's also something to be said about what's happening right here, right now, and being present in this moment. And he paused for about 5 or so seconds. He got quiet. I could see his mind just churning and taking in this concept of presence. And after those 5 seconds, he says, I'm really excited about my birthday that's coming up. I was like, did you just hear what I said, Bodhi, about being present? On one level, he's thinking about his birthday that's coming down the road 2 or 3 months later. And also, when I say the word present, in his mind, he's thinking about getting a present. So, bless his heart. He's 7 years old, right? So if he takes in just a little bit of this wisdom, then I consider that to be a victory. Albert Einstein says, any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention that it deserves. How many times in our life are we multitasking? You want to talk about anxiety and stress. So much stress and anxiety is because we're doing too many things all at once. And now with technology and our phones and receiving text messages and phone calls and emails and notifications from social media outlets, again, we're just bombarded by so many things, and all this pulls us away from the power of the present moment. So the question becomes, how do we become more present? What can we do? And for me, I'll often work with many of the mindfulness techniques and tools as a way to become present. One of these is being attuned to body sensation. For example, when you get depressed, that's going to show up in your body because your body keeps the score. When you get stressed or anxious, that too will show up somewhere in your body. So as you become more and more attuned to your body through meditation, mindfulness, and yoga, you'll start to notice, hey, when I get stressed out, it shows up maybe in the chest area where you feel a contraction that happens in your chest. Or when you get depressed, you may feel something within your belly, within your core. You know, they talk about the gut reaction. And so there's a lot of things that we can feel in that stomach and that gut area where we feel these areas hardening or tightening, or we might feel heat or temperature changes. So there's that connection between the mind and the body, which we've unpacked quite a bit in some of the other podcasts like Mastering Your Mind and things like that. So we can tune in to our bodies and feel what we're feeling within our body, because the sensation that you're feeling isn't happening yesterday. It's not happening tomorrow. When is it happening? It's happening right now. It's happening in this moment. Another thing that we can use to become more grounded and more present is focusing on our breath. And this is a big one. It's a universal practice. It's free. You don't have to go do some $5,000 training to learn this. It's neutral. It's applicable to anybody that has any belief system, any religious or non-religious belief. We can all tune into our breath. And on some level, it's very, very simple. And I like to use this when I'm in transition, when I'm in an Uber or a Lyft and I'm going to a meeting, or when I'm at the airport and I'm standing in line getting ready to go through security. A lot of times when we're in transition, this is when our mind loses that present connection, because we start to get bored, or we're fighting the experience. So when we fight the experience, we don't want to be in line, we don't want to be in traffic. What do? We want to check out. Or if we're at home and we're experiencing uncomfortable emotions, or we've had a tough day at work, what do? We don't want to be present. We go to the refrigerator and we numb ourselves with food or alcohol or drugs, or just numbing out by watching television for 5 or 6 hours. There's so many ways that we default out of the present moment. So to attune yourself to your breath and just be aware when you're taking an inhale and then when you're releasing an exhale. Just that simple act of knowing the difference between an inhale and an exhale. And also the quality of the breath. Is the breath shallow? Is the breath fluid? Is the breath rich? Is the breath deep? And you can scroll back through the podcast episodes and we have a whole entire meditation that's called the breath meditation, where we just dial into the breath. So those two things, focusing on bodily sensation, focusing on the breath, will always bring you back to the present moment. If you're attuned to those things, then you know that your mind is present. Now, as you go throughout your day, another takeaway tool from this podcast is to ask yourself periodically, and you want to make this a habit, ask yourself the question, what is going on inside me in this present moment? Get in this habit. Again, when you're walking to work, when you're going to pick up the kids from sports practice, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, taking a shower, eating lunch, whatever it is, ask yourself, what is going on inside me in this present moment? Because this will keep you connected to what you're feeling and what you're thinking and what your experience is, and that'll help you mitigate and navigate around that default mode of checking out and numbing out and being disconnected from yourself. So stay attuned to what it is that you're feeling within. As you do this, naturally your mind and your body, they begin to settle. So the mind becomes less and less like a stormy, turbulent ocean, and it becomes more like a clear forest pool. William Butler Yeats writes, we can make our minds so like still water that beings gather around us so that they may see, it may be, their own images. And so live for a moment with a clearer, perhaps even with a fiercer life because of our quiet. We know from neuroscience that we have these mirror neurons. And when we're around somebody and they exude a certain energy or quality or frequency or electromagnetic signature, then that can awaken that within us as well. So when our minds are settled, when our hearts are open, then we can inspire that within other people that we come into contact with. And this is really a gift. You think about all the people that you see on a daily basis, your family, your friends, people in your community, strangers at random places. And when we're in this energy of being settled and being present, we have the capacity to awaken that within others. Now, traditionally, yoga was defined by a sage named Patanjali as being Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. So those are Sanskrit words. Yoga means union, Chitta means mind or consciousness, Vritti means wave or fluctuation, and the word Nirodha means the removal of. So yoga traditionally meant the removal of the waves inside the mind, or the removal of the fluctuations of the mind. So you think about it, yoga isn't about down dog, it's not about handstand, it's not about fancy circus tricks. In its core essence, it's about removing these waves so that the mind becomes completely still. This stillness, this still mind, is congruent and in alignment with this theme of being present. Now, when we allow our thoughts and we allow our speech and we allow our actions to come from this place of stillness, of presence, this begins to trigger a whole different chain of events, or what we might call karma, than when our thoughts and our speech and our actions come from a place of chaos or disturbance. When your mind is disturbed, this is going to color how you think, how you speak, and how you act, right? So when you allow yourself to settle, to become still, to become present, now you're creating and forging this new path where you're planting seeds that are going to bear different types of fruits. So if you have a still present mind, you are going to plant seeds that are going to lead to qualities like joy and happiness and meaning and benevolence. And adversely, when you're planting seeds that come from chaos and disturbance, then you're going to create more of that chaotic, dissonant suffering for yourself within your life. So think about that. The more present you are, the more still you are, the more that you begin to create a different type of karma for yourself. And if you're unfamiliar, karma just means action. What actions are you taking? And what you reap is what you sow. If you plant an apple seed, you grow an apple tree. If you plant a seed for a weed, then you grow a weed. So the question is, what do you want to plant in the garden of your life? Do you want to plant seeds or do you want to plant weeds? Now, when we bring this presence to all things within our life, even the mundane things like washing dishes, running errands, doing and folding laundry, we have the capacity when we bring this presence to something that is ordinary for it to turn into something extraordinary. And ultimately, this presence begins to pervade everything that we do, not just when we're going to yoga or meditation. It's not about just being present at those times. The practice is, the hope is that it begins to percolate into all things. And of course, it will wax and wane, it will expand, it will contract, it will come and go. That's part of being a human. That's okay. But the idea is that it does begin to proliferate through all those various aspects of what we do within our life. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "If a person sweeps streets for a living, he should sweep them as Michelangelo painted, as Beethoven composed music, and as Shakespeare wrote his plays." So to bring magnificence, to bring presence to whatever it is that we do. The garbage collector, they bring presence to what they do. The person working in the financial institution, in the business, they can bring presence to what they do. The stay-at-home mom or dad or grandmother, grandfather, they bring presence to what they do. And this turns into a living act of beauty. So bringing presence to all things in life. And that your freedom really comes from transcending your past, not being stuck in the past, and also not being stuck in the future, and always taking refuge in the eternal present moment. The past is history, the future is a mystery. That's why this moment right now is called the present. It's a gift. And that's from the Wise movie, Kung Fu Panda. Some great wisdom from an animated movie. So lastly, the takeaway is, again, check in with yourself. Ask yourself the question, what am I feeling right now in this present moment? And an exercise that you can do is, as you move through your life, to be aware, to be conscious of where your mind is going. And if you notice that your mind is going into the past, then just note that. And you don't want to note it with judgment and criticism and abuse. You don't want to be like, oh man, I flunked the test. You want to be compassionate with yourself and just gently note it with a neutral, compassionate mind. Oh yeah, mind going back to the past. So you can say the word pass, pass, pass. And then if you notice yourself getting anxious and you're getting stressed out about the future, you can also become aware of that. And you can note that as well. Again, no criticism, no judgment, but just being aware, oh, there's the mind going into the future, and you note that. Future, future, future. And then after noting that, past, past, or future, future, then you can just come back and repeat the word presence. Or you could say, be present, be present, be present. And obviously, if you're somewhere in public, like you're standing in line at the grocery store, you probably want to do this all silently, internally, so that people don't think that you're completely crazy. You want to be like an incognito person about it. But this will really, really start to open up the window and broaden the scope of what's possible for you to continue to be more and more present. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Zen master, says, the miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth, dwelling in the present moment and feeling truly alive. So as you're walking, and we walk so much within our day, to really think about that, bringing mindfulness to every step, feeling your feet touch the ground, feeling the breath moving in and out through the body, feeling the breeze touching your skin. Remember those bodily sensations that we feel connecting to the breath. And this is the miracle. This is the miracle that we're all incredibly capable of. All right, you guys, that is it for episode number 32, The Power of Presence. Let's now finish with the ultimate prayer. May we bring strength where there is weakness. May we bring courage where there is fear. May we bring compassion where there is suffering. And may we bring light where there is darkness. May we be ultimate. Thank you again for tuning in. If you like this episode, take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, leave a review. Thank you for rating, throwing some stars our way at the Be Ultimate podcast. And upcoming retreat, November 1st through the 3rd at the Kripalu Institute in the beautiful Berkshire Mountains. I'll be hosting a weekend retreat called the Ultimate Yogi Retreat. I'll be teaching 4 epic masterclasses, thematic power yoga, meditation, amazing food, amazing trails. Come join me. Would love to have you. Would love to connect in person. See you next time.